and welcome to Minerals, Rocks, and Fossil Talks. I'm your paleontology teacher, Jen, and it's time for Fossil Friday. And honestly, I am still geeking out at the fact that this animal made it as far as it did in March Madness, because holy cow, I did not expect people to love this thing so much. Now, Lisowicia bojani lived in Poland during the late Triassic period, about 210 to 205 million years ago. It was discovered by these lovely Polish paleontologists, and I'm not going to say their names and butcher them and all that fun stuff because I don't speak Polish. So you can look at them, you can look them up, figure out how to say it yourselves. Now these paleontologists, when they first initially found this animal, they thought it was a sauropodomorph. And I mean, can you blame them? This thing is freaking massive. Now, even though it was found in 2006, it wasn't officially named until 2019, just because they had to go through all the prep process, make sure they could figure out what it actually was. Because, surprise, surprise, until you get all the matrix off, it's hard to tell. It was found in this clay pit, which consists mostly of green mudstones. Its home would have been wet and swampy, akin to the modern-day Everglades, with large meandering rivers, oxbow lakes, and just completely surrounded by abundant vegetation that are mostly conifers, ferns, and cycads. It would have lived alongside things like this archosaur named Smock, who was probably the apex predator, a silosaurid, a small theropod dinosaur, some pterosaurs, a small crocodilomorph, a sphenodont, primitive amphibians, lungfish, coelacanths, hypodontid sharks, and a smaller synapsid called Holothurium. Now, Lisowicia belongs in the phylum Chordata, that's the vertebrates, in the clade Amniota, so things with an amniote, in the smaller clade Synapsida, which is animals with one pair of temporal fenestrae in the skull, like us. And then continuing into the even smaller Therapsida clade, which is mammals and their closest relatives. Within Therapsida, they belong to the suborder Anomodontia. I keep wanting to flip the N and the M, so I have to slow myself down. And from there, they belong in the clade Dicynodontia. Now, Dicynodonts are a group of tusked, beaked herbivorous synapsids that ranged from the mid-Permian to the late Triassic. Lisowicia was the largest of this highly successful group, and it specifically belonged to the Cyanomyria forms. So these are going to be our larger ones. We have one here in the United States called Placerius, and if you were big into walking with dinosaurs, you'd be familiar with that name. Now, Lisowicia had very large temporal fenestrae, which allowed for large jaw muscles to attach at the back of the skull, so it would have had a pretty decent bite force. It was a stocky animal, like its closest relatives. It was completely toothless, and it actually lacked the tusks that most other Dicynodonts have. You'll see that it kind of has this bone that sticks out. That's not actually a tusk. That's part of the actual skull. And if I'm looking at this picture right, looks like that might be either part of the maxilla or the jugal. I'm gonna say the maxilla though. Somebody who's better with mammal bones can tell me, because I am terrible with synapsids. Another crazy thing with their skeleton is that the cervical vertebrae of Lisowicia, so that's the neck vertebrae, have these hollows excavated along the lateral sides, which you can see similar things in like sauropods and birds and things like that. However, Lisowicia lacks pleuroseals, or the holes that would connect to like the airbag system. I always say airbag. Air sac system. So we're not entirely sure why it was carved. those vertebrae are carved out the way they are. We don't know what the function of that is yet. Hopefully we'll figure it out. Now, they have coprolites, which they attribute to Lisowicia, that have been found in abundant accumulations that have been interpreted as a sort of communal bathroom. So perhaps these animals would have been litter box trainable had they still been alive today. These coprolites have evidence of soft vegetation and conifers in them, but apparently they also occasionally ate some woody material. Maybe they ate that when they were lacking the good stuff. Who knows? The bones of Lisowicia lack clear lines of arrested growth or lags, which might suggest that they grew very rapidly without interruptions until they reached adult size. Lags may have either been completely absent or erased due to extensive remodeling of the bone into adulthood, which is similar to mammals and some dinosaurs and supports permanently rapid growth. So that's pretty cool too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week's lessons. Make sure you tune in on Monday to learn about another popular metal. Have a good weekend, and I will fossilize you later.